It's good to have that brand consistency and to make sure that you're not breaking the rules all of the time, right? Because you want your brand to have a strong foundation as far as the visuals go.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the X agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge.
And settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips. Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 142, and today we're going to break some rules. And I'm excited about this because I'm more excited to hear about what rules Courtney's going to break because we're going to talk a lot about branding here and what kinds of rules you can and cannot break, especially because this is the season where it can be so fun to break a lot of rules.
Yes, 'tis the season because of all of the fun holidays that are right around the corner. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is breaking rules is like totally fun and fine and okay in your brand. But we also want to make sure that we have that brand consistency. We throw that C word around a lot on this podcast and just like within our own brand. And it's good to have that brand consistency and to make sure that you're not breaking the rules all of the time, right? Because you want your brand to have a strong foundation as far as the visuals go and having that consistency from piece to piece where you're showing up within your brand. But if you stick to it too rigidly, I'm going off tangent here. Didn't you do the ChatGPT thing where you had them analyze our Instagram? And what did they say? Did they say we were a little too rigid maybe?
No. So I had it do it right around when we posted about Snoop.
Yes.
And so it was when the Olympics were going on, and we did an episode with the Snoop meme that was going around. And everyone was doing a roast my Instagram feed on ChatGPT.
There you go.
And so it was really funny. And I actually, I looked at it and I was like, this is more so a compliment than it is a roast. But It was like, everything, your brand feels really consistent, except for Snoop. That feels like off-brand.
There we go. Yes. And that's what we're going to talk about today is like breaking those rules. And like some things might seem a little off-brand or like not as like consistent as everything else that you have going on, which is fun. Because so when she did that, it was so fun to see that chat said that. And I was like, hey, well, like this is perfect. Like we have our brand consistency, but we're also breaking those rules and doing fun things when like the season changes or like when it makes sense, if it's a trend or a fad or whatever.
Yeah. And I think like from a visual, so ChatGPT is just looking at that from a visual perspective, exactly. Right? So you can see visually, that doesn't really fit in. It's a different photography style. It's different colors. It's different. Mm-hmm. But what Chat can't see is everything about the voice of it and how it's positioned. And the second you read that, you start to understand that we didn't lose anything or go away from our brand. It's still our voice. It's still articulating or communicating a message that's very true to who we are and what we want to share.
Yeah. So that's where it's okay to break these rules sometimes, right? Especially in this fun season of holidays. We have Halloween is literally a few days away from this episode airing. And then we've got Thanksgiving and we've got Christmas and we've got the New Year. And this is where you tend to see a lot of those fun memes and GIFs and trends kind of start to surface on a lot of people's brands. Like a lot of people are jumping on these trends. And that's great. It's fun. You get really great engagement. You can twist it to be a part of your brand. So like Abby was saying, like that Snoop one, what Chat couldn't see is the content that was behind it and how we were relating that Snoop image and meme back to our business. Like how did it make sense? And it's all in the context of how we serve that to you. So seasonal content is so fun to take and like break these rules with your brand. Again, it's that excitement. It creates that connection with your audience. I know we did I have this that I wanted to touch on, the Little Miss trend. That was, gosh, was that last year already?
It might have been
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I struggled so hard with that one because it's, you know, the Little Miss characters. I'm like, these look nothing like our brand. Like, what? How am I going to do this? And so I knew I had to jump on the trend. We had some really great Little Miss content. And so we jumped on the trend and we did it, and people loved it. But I figured out a way to make it look consistent with our brand. And then obviously we pulled through some fun brand content. But that was one I really struggled with, because sometimes, you know, you want to jump on those trends, but you're like, wow, this is not my brand at all. Like, I can't do this. This is like such a, you know, like a disconnect. But you just have to find how it aligns to your brand's values and like what you're offering, and then just do it. It's okay to break these rules, especially in the social space. This is a space of like fun, creativity. People go here to take a break or be inspired. And when you jump on those trends and you do those things in those space and make it relevant to your brand, it's okay to break those brand rules visually.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where we wanted to start, was just by starting with a few guidelines on where you can and cannot break rules. And first and foremost, yes, you can break rules visually, but you should never break the rules of your core brand's foundation.
No.
Like jumping on a trend, I think we see this a lot sometimes too, where there might be trends out there where people like are roasting their clients almost. Like
you see that a lot.
Sometimes, yeah, like for example, like red flags, like this is the red flags I see, and all of those kind of things. And it's not us. That's not who we are. And we, like, our mission and our vision is to help like empower people and promote, like, just basically like create this positive environment.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that like some of those like red flags don't happen for us, but it's not part of our brand. It is not part of our brand to be like sarcastic and snarky. And so we don't do that. We don't participate in those trends.
No.
And I think that is very clear to understand. Like, you need to understand your brand values, the core foundation of what your brand is, and make sure that the trend aligns with that, even if it breaks the rules visually.
Absolutely. Yeah. You really, you have to make sure that you're always laddering back to your brand strategy, and that you still sound the same, you still come off of the same, because if you all of a sudden, like, you're a very upbeat, positive, like inspiring business, like we are, I would say that's what we try to embody. If we came on with some trend that's like very negative and snarky, that would be a huge disconnect for our audience. And then we're not doing ourselves any justice, because then we're breaking the rules of our brand strategy. And those are things within your brand that you just don't want to break. You want to make sure that you are seriously following your core values for whatever your brand's core values are, and staying true to those. But breaking things visually is okay. You can do that. That's fine. Like, because that isn't such a disconnect as far as like, if I see an extra color on somebody's grid or in their brand, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can never interact with this brand again. That's not going to be off-putting in that way. Yeah. So just making sure that you're always aligned to your brand core values, and making sure that, you know, if you're making something and you're like, oh man, this doesn't feel like my brand, or like I might ruffle feathers, and you're nervous about that, then it's probably content that you don't want to touch. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. But if you are a brand that ruffles feathers, like, by all means, like, jump on those trends, right? It all depends on your core values and your brand strategy.
Yeah. And not like, there are plenty of brands that I love to follow and that I engage with who are snarky and who are fun. Yeah. And it is their brand, and it's just,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. It works for them. They do it in a tasteful way. Like, there's a lot of good that can come in that, but it's just not us. And we know that. So that's where, like, we just have to hop on the trends that make sense for us.
Right. And that feel good.
Or tweak the seasonal content to make sure, again, like, are the seasons aligned with what we should be sharing too? So.
Right. So the next guideline is that it's okay to tweak your voice. So you might be thinking like, well, you guys just told me that I shouldn't post this if it's not like within my brand value. And that's true, but your voice is a little different, right? So let's, for example, say you're a little bit more of a serious brand, but then there's this like fun, playful holiday trend that's going around or something like that. It's okay to break into that funness, right? And be a little bit more joyful and fun and stepping a little bit out of that serious role. Because this is where people expect that when people see these trends and stuff like that. It's not so far-fetched that if you're like a calm, serious brand, to have something a little bit more fun too. People can see that connection. Again, just making sure it matches your tone of your brand, and that again, you're not maybe ruffling feathers if you're more serious. But if you want to be more playful in these seasonal moments and jumping on those fun trends, that's okay too. So just knowing that your brand voice can change a little bit within these seasons, because we're talking about more than just our brand and what we do. We're also adding on that level of the seasonality.
Yeah. And it's totally depends on your business too. So like thinking about if you are someone who, say you work in the financial industry, you do like taxes, or like that tax season for you is like a big season. That is not a season where you probably want to be more playful and fun. Like that's a season where you likely need to have your serious tone and need to be taken seriously because you do very serious work. But then, yeah, during the holidays, that isn't that time frame where people are, stressed out about taxes or worried about finances or what it may be. People are usually a little bit more like spend happy and celebrating the seasons. So you can be playful. So it's also thinking about, it's putting that hat on of who your audience is in this time. So if holidays, like say you are a coach for product businesses, this is probably a really stressful time of year for a lot of product-based business owners. So you probably don't want to be super playful or snarky during this time because people might need the support and you might need to have a different tone of voice because of that. So it's really thinking about your audience during this time of year and what they might need from you, and making, not that you're a chameleon changing your voice, like the core value of your voice is all still staying the same, but you can tweak things here and there. It's basically just a guideline of like, have a gut check, like have that gut check question of, if I hop on this trend, if I do this, will it resonate correctly with my audience? Or, are you going to post something that's all of a sudden going to have a chain of comments that has you stressed out and regretting your life choices?
The chain of comments. You got to love that every once in a while. Yeah. And if you're not sure, like if you like your own gut check, you're like, gosh, I don't know, like ask a few friends that you have within your entrepreneur, friendship bucket, because a lot of them will be able to let you know too, or ask a significant other or a friend. Because sometimes, I've even asked Abby, there's been content sometimes where I'm like, oh, I really want to do this trend, or like, I think this would be kind of funny. I'm like, what do you think? Like, do you think this is okay for Duo, or do you think we're pushing it a little bit? And she'll be honest with me. And some I think we've decided not to do, and others were like, yeah, this totally makes sense. How do we make it relevant and something that our audience is going to enjoy? The other thing, know your platform. So social, I said this before, is such a fun and easy space to do this seasonal content or these trends or breaking these rules of your brand, because again, it's an inspiring, fun place for people to either come and learn or engage with you, or sometimes they're just scroll happy and they want to see some fun stuff. So social is a space where we've always said that breaking the rules is okay. But, doing it other places might not make sense. So like, we're not going to constantly change our website based on like fads and trends and seasonal content. Like, you're not going to come to our website and be like, oh, this is the Duo Halloween website because it's that season. Even though if Abby let me do that, I probably would.
We used to make, this reminds me, we used to make for brands, like back in our agency days, brands would have seasonal style guides.
They would.
We would do it for like Clorox and like all of these big brands, Burt's Bees. Yeah. So you would create a seasonal style guide for that brand
based
to
on
look
that
and
season.
Feel different based on that season.
If you go into Target, you see that they've got a whole, Target has a whole, seasonal thing for Halloween, and they have different graphics and a new theme essentially every year. Same goes for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we would work on those style guides and help them with that content. So that's now fun. You have me wondering.
Now I'm like, can we create a seasonal duo?
Oh man, taking a note.
I think maybe next year for Halloween we should do
a
mini seasonal Halloween duo.
style guide. We're doing it.
Okay, anyways, we'll share more about that because that idea just happened live on the podcast, but we love it and we're making a note of it.
Yes.
But yeah, that is like, I think you can play way more with your social feed than anywhere else. But I'm also curious too. So we throw in, right, like one little post here that like doesn't match the guidelines. Would you do another? Like, or would you always balance that out with like, okay, it needs to be followed by 4 on brand images? Like, how do you think about that from a visual perspective when you're looking at your feed, like the snapshot of it?
So especially with the Little Miss one, like I had to surround it with more like heavily on brand.
So I'd say like for a season, if you're sprinkling in these little things, it's important to make sure it's surrounded by your,
I think so.
Your core brand.
Yeah. Because again, that's going to provide at least that brand, like some of that brand consistency that I think you need from platform to platform. Again, like I said, social is a fun space to like break these rules. But if like, let's say you came to our feed or someone else's feed and it was like perfectly curated, I shouldn't say perfectly because we don't use that word, but it's like nicely curated to be their brand. And then you see like a month's worth of like, wow, boom, just Halloween. And then it's back to their like brand. I feel like that would be a little bit of a weird disconnect, or like they lost themselves in that season because they were so focused on that or something. So that's a great question. I usually like make sure Halloween is definitely my favorite season of all. If you follow along, you know this. So Halloween is like where I like to have the most fun, but I'll like sprinkle in like a skeleton one and then 2 branded and then this one and then 2 branded and then this one and then 1 brand, because I don't want it to look like I'm
I think just
Halloween.
Like we talk about, it takes people less than 3 seconds to decide to stay on your website or go away. Same thing goes with Instagram. It takes people probably less than 2 seconds to decide if they're going to follow you or not. And I think that's where that cohesive feed that looks like your brand and embodies who you are matters. So again, breaking the rules, but just being conscious of it. Yeah.
And how you can use these templates, or like how you can build a template that still looks like your brand, but it is breaking the rule a little bit. Like again, like that Little Miss, I would never post that graphic to our social.
I don't even remember how you changed
a trend. I think I just made sure to like use our fonts and our colors, and I think I like didn't have the Little Miss quite as big. I don't know. You can maybe pull it up and
we'll find the example and put it in the show notes, because I also think it's kind of fun to see. Like, we'll link a few different examples of things that are off-brand, so to speak. Like, there's even been situations, because we don't, so like from a branding perspective, we don't focus on a specific type of branding. So we're not like boho or, I don't know.
Modern and moody.
We're not, I can't even think of words because this isn't what I do, but we don't focus on that. We really focus on what it is that the client wants and embody that to bring it to life. So we've touched so many different styles of branding, and that can be hard to share a portfolio of your work, because you want to make sure that it, kind of curated on your feed.
Yeah. I've struggled with that too in the past, like sharing certain branding clients, because I was like, wow, this is like such a harsh difference from what our brand is. Like, how do I show this? So that's always been a little bit of a challenge on how I show that within our feed too. I think I've started to let go of that like perfect grid a little bit more, so we can highlight some of those projects, because they are really great projects. But yeah, it's always just kind of finding a little bit of a balance between your brand and what this fun seasonal piece might be. And the last guideline that we want to touch on is just listening. Like, if your audience isn't liking it, then you should probably pull back a little bit. We've done a few posts in the past. They aren't meant to like ruffle feathers or anything, but sometimes you just get weird comments, whether they're weird or creepy or spammy. And
what one are you thinking?
I can't even remember off the top of my head. But Abby does such a great job of like replying back to them, because sometimes I'm just like, oh, delete it, uncomfortable.
If anyone has, we've talked about this before too, DMs get out of control. It is very hard to stay up on DMs, because they go into 3 different folders. you have requests, you have general, you have like sometimes things get lost and we don't get notifications. And so I'm always like, please send us an email. Like that's where things will not get lost.
Yes.
But if anyone has like I don't know, an organizer, a tool that they use to like help organize DMs, please send it our way, because I feel like that is the most complicated thing to deal with.
On
but
Instagram, for sure.
I know there was one reel, I can't even remember. It was like last year this time. Did it take off on TikTok or Reels? It was like, we went to the Vikings game.
Okay, yeah.
We posted a reel right around that time, and for some reason blew up, did nothing for us because it blew up with the wrong audience. And we got creepy like male comments on stuff, and I was like, ew, what's happening?
So I mean, and that's like that's a gross scenario, unfortunately. But if you post something and like you notice that your audience isn't liking it and it's like your core main audience that you want to attract, then it might be a time to like reevaluate, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do posts like that, or like that might have taken it a little too far, or that might have been a bigger brand disconnect than I was expecting. So just making sure to listen to your audience and just like see how they're engaging with that content. And if it's great engagement and positive engagement, then definitely like keep doing it. But if you're not getting the engagement that you anticipated, or you're getting negative engagement, then again, that might be a time to kind of like step back and reevaluate the things that you might want to be sharing, or like breaking the rules when it comes to your brand.
Oh, and this next one is basically like building a little duo Halloween style.
It is, yes. So now we're getting into rules that can be broken when it comes to your brand. And the first thing we want to talk on here is exploring additional colors to your branding. So, we have our core set of colors, but that doesn't mean that you can't have fun within these seasonal moments, especially, or with even just your main brand. Like having secondary colors for certain seasons or products or launches is totally okay to kind of like add like additional sub branding or break those rules within your main brand. But again, making sure you have all of those core things, but adding these things for seasonal content or like again, new products, new launches, whatever, that's okay. That's actually encouraged. I think it's a good addition to your brand, and it shows that you can be adaptable with your brand and like change with these seasons and be a part of these seasons where it makes sense. So, I love Halloween, but the colors orange and black together, it's harsh, right? But I love Halloween. So like, obviously my house is like all of that right now. And adding that into duo during this time frame makes sense because it's again relevant to the season. And the fact that I love Halloween is it's kind of like Halloween is like my brand kind of. So it makes sense for us, right? Like people aren't like off-put by that or shocked by that. They're like, oh, well, this would make sense because she loves Halloween. She's a designer. She's going to add this splash into their content. It's not jarring or anything. So, and then like Halloween graphics, like I love to jump on the Halloween trends for Duo. They're so fun. The Haunted House series, like you're going to see that. We're going to post that again this year, but we did it last year and years past. It's just fun to jump on those trends, not only because, again, they're fun and humorous, but it's a certain time of season. Other people are doing it. And when you can tie it and make it relevant to your business, it's actually like quite humorous because people are like, oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Like we talk about branding and SEO and we share tips all the time that sometimes if you keep sharing the same thing over and over again, like you just don't draw enough attention to it, or it's not as attention grabbing as you might need it to be. So the nice thing about seasonal content is that you can share the offerings that you have in a new way that's going to be attention like grabbing. Like someone's going to stop and read that because it's positioned in this unique way that you haven't seen before. So I think that's almost the power of seasonal content. It's not just like jumping into the season and having fun. It's like you are actually grabbing attention because people are pausing because you might not have in the past posted content like that before.
Right.
And now they see it and they're like, oh, that's different. And we like different. Like people like different. They look at things that are different. So how can you differentiate yourself without completely throwing your brand out the window?
Right.
Like I think that's the point of all of this seasonal content and how to engage with it.
Yeah. And typically people who see this stuff that's like new, unique, fun, or humorous, they tend to share it more. Like people share these things so much. And if you can get more visibility by people sharing these things and like being super engaged with that actual poster or creative piece or whatever, that's only more eyes on you and positive eyes because like people are excited to share it and they find it super relevant and humorous and fun and different. So, you know, the more they share, the more eyes you have on you. So the more hopefully good exposure you get.
Yeah. And on that note too, with colors, adding in like fun, playful elements, icons, submarks can be helpful. And I have an idea for Courtney.
Oh wow, we have so many new ideas on this episode. You are lucky if you're listening to this episode.
Peace sign, but make it skeleton.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Okay, well, I guess I'm doing
cute
that.
Is that.
I guess I'm doing that tonight.
I know. I think that's like, but those are things where like you just think of your brand and like the peace sign is like something that it's a part of our brand because it's duo and it's us.
Two of us.
Yeah, two of us. And so it's always like the fun, playful piece of it, but you can take something like that and make it super fun.
Yes, that's super fun. Okay, well now I need to do that this week and then switch it out on our homepage where it's like doing the little piece thing.
Oh, you do? Okay, so make sure, because it's almost Halloween, that you jump to our website and peek at it.
Oh wow, now she's really holding me accountable.
I am, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. But anyways, those are like fun little ways where you can see, like I think examples like that also help you envision seeing how it's on brand while still being different and playful and fun.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And then, we've talked about social a lot, which is basically the one place where you can really break these rules. But it's thinking of things like patterns, icons, illustrations, like Abby just said, secondary brand colors, maybe an additional font. I guess like if it's like seasonality, that could make sense. But this is where you can get a little crazy and have some fun. Like break the grid a little bit, have a little bit of fun. You don't need to be so rigid. And then just showing up authentically and a little less perfect is fine. Like I had a hard time with that, I would say, with our social grid for a while. And then I had to let go of that because we are a fun brand and like we like to be playful and different and show up in unique ways. And if I didn't break out of that little like brand perfection bubble, like we wouldn't be doing these fun things. And like those are the fun things that actually get us like jazzed. We sit down and we're like, oh, a haunted house series. Okay, what are like the 10 different things we can come up with that make sense for our business? So it's like thinking about your business differently and in this unique way too. So again, I think it's just being less rigid or like less like super hyper focused on your branding and making sure that like if you do break these rules, you're doing it tastefully and still consistently, and again making sure that that context is right and that it's not incorrect.
I'd say, I mean, I'm not a brand designer, so for me fonts are the hardest because I think it takes a very special eye to match fonts with the type of like brand personality, everything else you have going on in your brand. So to me, it's almost like having your consistent fonts that you use for your brand, but applying those to more fun, playful content or memes or icons or colors helps create consistency without even realizing it.
Right. Fonts are huge. Yeah, I would say fonts would be the one thing that if you do break it, just be very, very conscious about how you're doing it.
I'm like not a brand designer and I'm like, don't break your fonts. Don't do it.
Yeah, because if we use our font in green and red for for Christmas season or whatever, you're not going to see a huge disconnect with our brand because you're going to see our brand fonts, and that's what we use all the time, right? Even if you see a little bit of color change, you're like, oh, it's because they're celebrating the season. But it's not like I'm using a really Christmassy, scripty, super elegant font or something. It's because if you saw that, you'd be like, wait, what? Who are these ladies? So fonts are a really strong creative foundational piece for your brand that, you know, sometimes you see people get so Canva happy with all of these templates and these new fonts that come out. And a lot of people jump on font trends in Canva, and you can see it in anybody's grid from a mile away if they're that person, because their fonts are constantly changing. There's no consistency.
I know.
So fonts would be like, if you're going to break it, you just be cautious, I would say. But like colors and icons, patterns, illustrations, those things you can definitely break and have a little bit more fun with.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, I mean, I feel like we've already brainstormed so much content on this podcast already of just like
what you
ways
can do.
to envision, like ways to envision what you can do, how you can change things, which I know we're like live brainstorming with you guys, but hopefully that helps you too.
Yes.
There's a few other things that we've done in the past too that kind of maybe break our brand rules that we'll kind of talk about that we haven't mentioned, but jumping on, like we did a podcast episode last Halloween that was all about like marketing tricks and treats. So it was just like a fun episode where we shared a special freebie and we just shared just overall general marketing things, but put it in the tone of Halloween. And we want you to tune in a couple days because there's going to be a bonus episode on Halloween.
Of course.
Again, with a fun little twist. And I think a podcast is one of the easiest places to break rules because it's like there's no visual aspect to it.
Right.
I mean, it's our voice, but we are who we are and we're already embodied of the brand.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah, we're breaking all the rules here.
Yeah, so that's one of like some examples on the podcast. You can see how we kind of break the rules. We've had like 4th of July episode all about Courtney because she loves 4th of July. So, yeah, there's been fun spots where we've kind of broken the rules before too.
And the freebie that we did for that marketing tricks and treats podcast episode last year, it looks like kind of like our brand, but I definitely broke rules there with that freebie because it was fun. Like there's little Halloween, icons and illustrations in there. And I mean, if you don't already have it, you should go download it. It's amazing. But it was just really fun to build because I was breaking out of our brand, but still keeping it, true to us, but really leaning in on that seasonal content and the theme of it all.
The funny thing, it's very pink heavy, and that was before we had pink in our brand.
Yeah. So it actually probably is more on brand now.
It's more on brand now than it was
I
then.
wonder if I should change it.
That's funny.
Oh, no.
No.
But it's still really cute.
Yeah. Unless you add the skeleton piece.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Another one is we've done these blog posts before, which I also think like blog and keyword research can be so fun to play with during this time of year. So from an SEO perspective, like one of the things that people are searching for is small businesses to shop online. And so we created a post for Small Business Saturday to share some of our favorite small businesses that you can shop. And this is a post that we update every single year, and it's one of our top performing blog posts. And it's something where we're tapping into seasonal content, but it's so entirely on brand for us because we love to support our small business community and drive traffic to all of these businesses. So it's a situation where this isn't marketing for us, it's marketing for other people. But it's funny because we've listed businesses on there who've then reached out to work with us too.
Yes, yeah.
So it was never meant to be a business driver. It was just meant to be
like
a
fun,
part,
a
part of our
community
values, and it does drive great traffic to our website, which is great. And hopefully people hang around and click on Instagram and follow us and join our email list and all the things. But that's definitely one of those that it kind of just taps into the seasonality.
And then something that Abby and I, what we love to do, I mean, our business was born over coffee and mimosas, cocktails, we'd always just go grab a drink of some sorts. So it wouldn't ever be like off brand for us to do something that includes beverages because they've always been a part of our brand and they're how our brand was born. So I mean, if you follow along, we have tips and sips. We have the SEO squeeze. We've got, there's other
we
small
have our
things here and there.
own Duo 75.
French 75,
which,
yes.
Yeah, is a French 75 variation of a cocktail that we actually worked with a cocktail recipe developer, Equal Parts, who was a client of ours too, and created our own custom branded cocktail, which is so fun. And that's something that's like, again, not a business driver, but also it's funny when you think about this stuff because it's not like anytime we do marketing, we're thinking of how is this going to impact our bottom line? It's also about creating relationships and being memorable so that people think of you and really just building a brand experience that resonates with people. So I think that's where, like, if you're sitting here listening to this, like, why would I do that? Is that going to actually drive me business? Yeah, because it's going to create this memorable experience that people are going to want to come back to. And if you lose and you don't have that memorability, then, like, you don't have this chance of getting these like future referrals or people thinking about you when someone else is looking for an offering you have. So I think that's where it really comes into play.
I'm glad you said that because it's being remembered. Like you want to be remembered. You want to have that memorable experience for somebody because they are going to come back time and time again if they remember you. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to your brand strategy and your visuals together. Like you want to be memorable. And if you are, they're going to just keep coming back. So, and that includes breaking some of your brand rules, like we just talked about. And so I'm very excited to, hear how you guys think about this episode and to see your fun seasonal content out there. I would say this is the time of year where a lot of people are doing fun, unique things. And, if you've never done that and you're a little scared, I would say just try it. And again, see how your audience reacts to it. And if it's positive, then just keep doing it because it is a really fun time of year. And there are so many more content ideas out there during this time of year, like October, November, December, January. Like there's so many things happening that you can really lean heavily into that content outside of just your regular day-to-day content. So I challenge you to go out there, break some of those brand rules, have some fun, and let us know how it goes. We would love to hear and see all of your fun breaking of the rules when it comes to your brand.
Yeah, and come back in a couple days because we have a special little episode waiting for you. So happy Halloween.
Spooky.
If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.